Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success while providing people with fresh food. Farmers markets are essential. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer or food maker selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast. This week we're chatting with Ben Feldman, Executive Director of the National Farmers Market Coalition, about the upcoming 2023 Farm Bill. I'm one of your hosts, Bridget Myers. I'm a longtime farmers market manager and education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Kat Fields-White, Director of San Diego Markets, still an active farmers market manager and consultant, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and host of the Farmers Market Pros community.
And I'm Justine Marzoni-Mead, Tent Talk producer and marketing director for Farmers Market Pros.
Today's episode of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is supported by the USDA. Applications are now open for Farmers Market Promotion Program, Local Food Promotion Program, and Specialty Crop Block grants, with more than $100 million in funding available. The deadline is the 1st of May, so get started now. Find more about the USDA and how they support local farmers markets and food systems by clicking their logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Welcome back to Tent Talk. Today, our guest is Ben Feldman, Executive Director of the Farmers Market Coalition, the nonprofit organization dedicated to working with farmers market operators to strengthen markets across the United States. As FMC's Executive Director, Ben oversees external partnerships and sponsorship, questions from the media, board relations, and the coalition's federal policy and advocacy. Welcome to Tent Talk, Ben.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
We should say welcome back, because we did have Ben way back when, years and years ago. So,
and Ben is also a friend.
Yeah, he's our bed.
He's a Farmers Market Pros friend.
Yeah, and you always have our team on. It's wonderful.
Yeah, we love you guys. So we just want to do a little catch up with you. We know that we know and love the Farmers Market Coalition, but for listeners that may be new to the farmers market world, can you give us just a little background about what FMC is and its mission, and tell us about your role as executive director there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Farmers Market Coalition, we are a 501c3 membership-based nonprofit. We have members in all 50 states, Puerto Rico, and Canada. And our mission is to strengthen farmers markets for the benefit of farmers, consumers, and communities. And we do that with a primary focus on farmers market operators. As you all know, it's an unusual, unique job that requires support. Nobody goes to school for farmers market management. There's no degree program out there yet.
I was say there should be.
There should be.
Right? I think we might be on the verge of it with some of these certification programs folks are working on. But and so our work really, we consider it falling into two main buckets. The first being support services to farmers market operators. So that's resource development, training and technical assistance, support with data collection, and that type of thing, as well as giving market opportunities to connect with one another and learn from each other. And then also our work serving as a voice for farmers market operators, especially at the federal level, which is some of what we're here to talk about today. And then our work on National Farmers Market Week, promoting farmers markets to the shopping public.
Awesome. So many things.
And we love all those things. It's something that, we draw on constantly, and we're so thankful for the work that Farmers Market Coalition does, especially just bringing these issues into the public and recognizing farmers markets are a big thing.
Yeah.
They don't just happen.
They don't just happen.
It's a big business. Yeah. What are some kind of current projects that FMC has going on right now?
Where to start? We have a number of interesting projects that we're working on. We are working on a project with USDA to support 1890s universities as they are trying to develop farmers markets, figure out how to most appropriately engage with them. That's a very exciting project we've been working on for a little bit. We have a relatively new project working to do some professional development for conflict resolution for farmers market managers. We are, as you definitely know, we've been supporting the work of the Anti-Racist Farmers Market Toolkit and the group of Black food system leaders who developed that. We also, and one of the pieces to that is our recently developed community of practice for market managers that has about 100 market managers participating. We're also in the process right now. We just made the announcement recruiting for a new community of practice for market managers who are interested in doing federal policy advocacy as we lead up to the Farm Bill. So that's something that be recruiting on for about the next month. So hopefully when listeners hear this, they'll still be during that period of time. And if they're interested, they can follow up. We're focusing on a few key Farm Bill states, but it's really open to any market manager who's interested.
That's
and
great.
I think your emphasis this last year or two, I think, on developing those various communities of practice, whether for the anti-racist toolkit or for advocacy or for state leaders, or it's been a nice way to take that really big membership and break it down into sort of niche groups that have a lot in common and that can really support each other as peers.
Yeah, it's been a really important part of our process in developing a coherent approach to support training technical assistance. It's easy to talk about those things, but the tools that it takes to actually do those things, we're definitely, it's been a learning process, and the community of practice is one, especially for market managers. I think you all know how much they want to hear from each other and learn from each other and work together. So it's really been a powerful tool, along with some of the other tools that are in our collective tool belt, as it were.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, we always talk about it, and being market managers ourselves, it can feel super isolating sometimes because you're just kind of on your own doing this weird job that we didn't go to school for, like you said. So it's like collaborating with other market managers and having a collective group to rely on for tools is just super important. And all the work that you guys do is awesome.
Yeah, and additionally, I just want to add that Farmers Market Coalition, I know we're just like patting you on the back, Ben, because you guys do such a good job. But they really do pull in a lot of experts also that, aren't market managers, but especially with the anti-racist toolkit for farmers markets, drawing on experts in that field and who have done work in that area, and teaching us market managers of how to apply that to our industry. So it's kind of that education that we may not have had, we can get through these different toolkits and whatnot.
Yeah, such a great rock. So, Ben, you recently announced that after 4 years as executive director at FMC, you'll be moving away from that role this June. So where is FMC in the process of finding your replacement? And, what can you tell? Just because we have a wide listener pool that is in this field. So anything you want to share about that with our listeners?
Absolutely. Certainly, it's been an incredible time, and I'm really appreciative of the opportunity. When it was presented to me 4 years ago, it definitely felt like the right place and the right time, having spent what amounts to a full career in farmers markets and working in nonprofits. So I'm really appreciative to have had the opportunity, and now it's the right time for me to be moving on and giving the opportunity to someone else. We are in the process of recruiting for a new executive director right now. I'm sure by the time this podcast hits, it will be up on our website, since we'll be posting it in the next day or two. So anybody who might be interested in serving as executive director for the National Farmers Market Coalition, we'd love to hear from you. It's certainly a wonderful opportunity. And I think there's real exciting opportunities both within the field and within our organization to really help shape the course of what the future of farmers markets looks like. I think we've all been in this work for a while, and it's kind of amazing to see where we've come, at least for me in my career. And I suspect that the next 10, 15, 20 years are going to be pretty exciting as well. So I think we're really well positioned and look forward to that new leadership within the organization.
Yeah, you've done such a great job, and I feel like propelled FMC in such like a great direction. It's really primed for someone else to step into that role, and that's awesome. So yeah, if anyone's interested in that, there's information on the website. Will you be staying connected to FMC after you depart?
Yeah, so certainly in the short term, I'll continue to do our policy advocacy work as a consultant, and I'll probably remain connected to FMC in some capacity forever. But in the short term, given the Farm Bill, and that it expires in September of this year. And it may the new Farm Bill may not even be completed before that time period. Definitely want to make sure that we take advantage of that opportunity. So I'm not going to out before that gets done. But at this point, it'll just be a transition of the executive leadership, and then a longer transition for the policy work.
Yes. You can take the man out of FMC, but you can't take FMC out of the man. Well, the reason why we brought you here today is to talk about the Farm Bill. I feel like when I think Farm Bill, I think Ben Feldman. They're connected. So for our listeners that aren't familiar with the Farm Bill, maybe, or this has popped up on their radar in some capacity, but they don't know what it is, can you just give us a brief history and context? What are we talking about when we talk about the Farm Bill?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Farm Bill is the most significant piece of legislation that our government uses to address issues related to agriculture and food. It's not the only one. Just to keep things interesting, there's a few key pieces that are not part of the bill, but by and large, most of the agricultural programs and nutrition programs that we deal with in the United States are part of the Farm Bill. It's what's considered to be an omnibus piece of legislation, meaning there's multiple different programs that all come together into it. President Obama described it as like a Swiss Army knife because it touches on health and nutrition. It touches on research, infrastructure, conservation, innovation, safety net programs, a whole range of activities. It's also probably a good analogy because it similar to a Swiss Army knife, each individual tool may not be as perfectly honed as it could be if it were a single-use tool, but it's still important. And as it relates to farmers markets, there's a couple key programs that we all work with and care about, including SNAP EBT, the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, the Gus Schumacher Nutrition Incentive Program, and then, of course, the local agriculture program, which includes programs like Farmers Market Promotion Program, the Local Food Promotion Program, what is relatively still recently created in the last Farm Bill, the Regional Food System Partnership Program, and then, of course, for farmers, the Value Added Producer Grant. Overall, there's not a lot of federal regulation on farmers markets. It's more about these nutrition programs and the grant programs that the federal government administers that as it relates to farmers markets.
So it has a lot to do with funding.
Yeah, a lot to do with funding, and really especially the grant programs for farmers markets are in some ways one of the few opportunities that markets have for development funds, because it can be particularly difficult to access other sources of resources, whether it's traditional loans or other types of capital. So in many ways, this has, especially since these programs were introduced, the Farmers Market Promotion Program in particular, it's really been a big source of funding to support innovative programs within farmers markets. Programs like what is now the Gus Schumacher Nutrition Incentive Program, which is the program that funds a lot of the doubling programs. Some of those programs were before that the funding was available were funded out of the Farmers Market Promotion Program.
Gotcha. So how often does this come up? I know, it's a recurring thing that we hear about in spurts every couple years. The Farm Bill is coming, but what's the cycle of the Farm Bill, and is there anything significant about this upcoming 2023 bill that FMC is looking towards?
Yeah, the Farm Bill is coming. Yeah. So the Farm Bill is authorized for 5 years at a time. And so that's when we talk about Farm Bill years. That's the year in which the Farm Bill expires. And it's a long process to get that the new bill negotiated, because it is such a large bill that includes so many different pieces. It often takes over a year to get put together, from the early process of hearings and then marker bills that members of Congress put together to carve out their positions, And then each house develops their own version, and then they have to come together in a final bill. One of the exciting things about going into 2023 is that we were able to, in the 2018 Farm Bill, get most of the grant programs that we care about bundled into the local agricultural marketing program, and then also get some additional funding for the Russian Market Nutrition Incentive Program to get those to a level of what's known as baseline funding. And I mention that because it's important going forward. Programs that have baseline funding are kind of presumed to continue into the next Farm Bill, or if there's a period where one expires and the next one isn't negotiated, they're presumed to continue again. And that's pretty significant because, for example, in 2014, when there was a gap in the Farm Bill, there was a year where there was no farmers market promotion program grants because of that. And so we've gotten to that point where that won't happen again. And it means that looking into this next 2023 Farm Bill, we're able to start to identify key areas where we think there are some opportunities instead of just trying to fight for the existence of these programs, which is really important for us. So for that, for FMC, that means by and large looking at opportunities to simplify this process, make the applications easier to apply for, to administer, and to report on, in order to try and reduce some of the historic inequities in terms of who and where these programs who's gotten them and where has benefited most from them. That's a key priority of ours related to all of the federal grant programs that are relevant for farmers markets. And also related to that is reducing the match requirements. Many of these federal grant programs have a certain amount of funding that the organization that's applying for has to put up to say that they're also contributing to the outcomes of the project. And in the 2018 Farm Bill, that was added to the farmers market promotion program. So one of our efforts across the board is to try and reduce some of those matching requirements for the next cycle as well.
Well, it's some good context, and it's nice to hear that you're not having to do this gigantic deadlift every 5 years. That some of those things have been bundled in, and that they are likely to be renewed. For this 2023 Farm Bill, or for farm bills in the future, in your wildest dreams as current executive director of Farmers Market Coalition, if you could have a wish list of items that were to be included in the Farm Bill or to not be included, what's kind of at the top of that list of, Ben Feldman's dream for farm bills to come?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I should use this as an opportunity to plug we do have a list of our policy priorities on our website. For those are, pretty specific in terms of where, there's some very particular needs, but, overall, again, the idea here would be that if we're talking about big picture, that really there was strong and direct support for farmers market operators. So that is to say, just recognizing that the work of running farmers markets provides a whole range of community and social benefits, and that really these are things that should be supported by our government at all levels, and these grant programs are really important. And as we just talked about, they're complicated and difficult to get. So we've seen some of these efforts develop at the state level that are more about just saying, if you want to have success on whatever purpose, whether it's nutrition programs or increasing sales for farmers or building community, a farmers market manager is like the number one factor in whether or not those goals can be successful. And so if we were talking about my wildest dreams, let's just be clear that we could pay market managers to do this work and not to go through this whole rigmarole of process for a specific project. And then another thing would be a much more cohesive approach to federal nutrition benefits that prioritize the needs of people who rely on the programs, including farmers and shoppers. As these various programs, even just as they operate in farmers markets, are sort of fragmented and piecemeal, and farmers have to go through multiple authorization processes and applications and use different forms of equipment to access them. And that really doesn't serve the needs of farmers or customers who shop with SNAP or other federal nutrition benefits. So if I were able to sort of wave the Farm Bill magic wand and those to get simplified and resolved so that these programs can work much more effectively and be more efficient programs so that the benefits of them can go to people who really are intended to benefit from them.
Well, you'd pointed out, too, that there's not much in the way of federal regulations around farmers markets. Do you think it'd be advantageous if, whether through the Farm Bill or some other mechanism, there was a consistent set of regulations that applied to farmers markets versus the very wide disparity between regulatory issues in one state versus another state?
That's a great question. And I do think there is a certain amount of difference between states, and it may always be more appropriate. But I think you're right that there is a lot of these regulations at the state or local level have sprung up without the input or meaningful involvement of farmers market operators. And as a result, they're inconsistent, they're challenging, and by virtue of being different in different communities, it makes those groups who run markets in different communities, it's real challenging for those market operators that work either across cities or counties, or in some cases, even across states and municipalities. Some of our friends who work in the DC area operate farmers markets in DC, Maryland, Virginia, and that is some real significant differences. There's also issues related to the costs of permitting in different areas. So I think you're definitely onto something. We had conversations about whether or not it would be appropriate to have a national definition for farmers markets. Obviously, markets in different communities have different needs, but we can all be pretty well agreed that if there aren't any farmers present at the market products, how that's a farmer's market. Well, how is that a farmer's market?
How is that a farmer's market? That's right. That sign on the front of supermarkets or produce sections or convenience stores and airports is, we wish there was some law that we could say, take that down.
I think Kat's major gripe is Sprouts Farmers Markets not being a farmer's market. She brings it up once every 5-6 days. Yeah.
It's definitely that's definitely my top one. There is the chain. I haven't seen them in the airports lately, but there was that chain that was just a grab and go kiosk kind of thing, and which was almost more egregious because they didn't even have produce. But regardless, the trading on the farmers market name has really gotten out of control.
Yeah. Justine and I saw that at the airport in Virginia. It had Doritos in it and some Coca-Cola and definitely said farmer's market.
Maybe there was baby carrots with ranch.
Maybe.
Definitely no farmers. Yeah, for sure. Have you seen discussions about the Farm Bill change in the last few years? Do you see negotiations getting easier, getting harder? Is there a big shift when an administration changes, or when, for instance, right now there's been a big shift in congressional profiles just this year? Do you expect that kind of thing is going to have a big effect on negotiations? And have you seen that in the past as administrations have changed?
It's a great question. And I think one piece of information that's really relevant here is it used to be that Farm Bill would always get negotiated and completed before the previous one expired. In the history of the Farm Bill, it's only happened twice that the previous year has expired before a new one has been negotiated, but it's been the last 2 times that it has happened. And just kind of given the timing of where we are, and sort of as you're alluding to, there are more incoming House members of Congress than there have ever been before. There's going to be a huge amount to get folks up to speed on. And there's certainly, with the growing partisan nature of politics in this country, it does seem quite likely that we will be in a position where we could see the Farm Bill, the 2018 Farm Bill, expire before a new 2020 negotiated. So I think it's definitely the nature of politics in this country have definitely made what used to be a very bipartisan bill more challenging and more fragmented to get passed. And especially, again, with more new members of Congress and that trend continuing, it seems quite possible that we'll be in another situation like we were in the past two farm bills. And I don't know how it's gonna play out, but it's certainly going to be interesting.
Interesting to see. You would think that providing food, letting people grow food, all of us eat, right? You would think that would not be a part of a divisive issue, that it would be about as bipartisan as you could get, but that's certainly not the case. And of course, there's money involved, and so that complicates things.
I should say, farmers market topics are one of the most bipartisan issues that we see, right? We don't have a situation where we have members on either side of the aisle opposing the work that we are proposing, especially when we're talking about things like simplifying these applications, making it easier to access government funds, and moving forward in a way that supports farmers and people who want to shop at farmers markets. So that's the good news. The problem, of course, is that we may get caught up on some of the larger issues, some of which may not even be related to agriculture. I mean, in the last Farm Bill cycle, one of the things that happened, you or some of the listeners may remember, is that the Republican Party was having a disagreement about immigration issues. And as a result, certain members of the Republican Party did not want to vote yes on the Farm Bill until they had a vote on an immigration bill. And as a result, the initial bill that was brought forward in the House of Representatives, that was a Republican-led bill, was voted down by members of the Republican Party. So, even though our issues are so bipartisan, there are other factors that can get in the way. And that's, what we may see happening again this time around.
Yeah, sure. That's what we're seeing all over is, really benign issues being held hostage to promote other, completely unrelated agendas. Yeah, and sides. So altogether, it sometimes feels nowadays like we don't have much control over what our government's doing. What can we do as market managers, as farmers market participants? How do we get into the conversation about the Farm Bill? What are some actual specific ways that we can make a difference and influence what happens next?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it can be real simple. A simple call to a member of Congress, either just broadly about topics that an individual cares about. That's an easy thing to do, just takes a couple minutes. I know it feels intimidating, but honestly, the people on the other end of the line, it's their job to make it comfortable. And it's really just a quick Google search. You can find the contact information for your member of Congress. If you prefer, if you're, I know some folks don't like talking on the phone, a letter, postcard is also a good way to do it. And then I alluded to earlier, the marker bills, we're about to see those start coming in, and FMC will be sharing via our newsletter some of those bills. That may will provide scripts and, basic information that folks can use in order to contact their member of Congress. More broadly speaking, to engage with elected officials, one of the big things we always recommend is just invite them out to the market. In many ways, that is a easier setting for a market manager. That's where you as market managers are absolute experts, right? And so being able to bring members of Congress out to the market shows them in a real concrete way what you all do every day, what it means to run a market. And then it's also a really fun visit. It's definitely, when we talk to members of Congress, it's often one of the favorite types of things that they get invited to. They get invited to a lot of rather boring activities. And so the farmers market visit is often a real good one. And if you're having a special event, it doesn't hurt to give them a platform. Politicians do like to have an opportunity to be in front of the microphone or the cameras or just a crowd. And so that's a great way to engage them. But I think one of the most important things to emphasize is it doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be particularly professional. These are people who work for you as members of, they represent you as constituents of their district. And so it shouldn't feel intimidating, whatever method of communicating is most comfortable is one that, utilize.
Yeah, they absolutely do count those. It's so handy that National Farmers Market Week that Farmers Market Coalition runs gives you a lot of ways to get your elected officials out to the farmers market, because like any situation, you're going to get a better deal from somebody if you already have a relationship with them. So rather than waiting to contact them until you need something, if you've got that line of communication that's open because you're inviting them out to cut a ribbon or make a proclamation, that's going to help us later when we ask for something. So to wrap up, Ben, I know there's going to be resources available through Farmers Market Coalition. What's the best way for people to engage with that? Do they need to be members? Is it going to be posted on the website? Subscribe to the newsletter? What are the best methods for accessing all the good work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Subscribe to our newsletter. That is our main communication channel. We're also, of course, on the various social media platforms. Newsletter is usually where those things go out first and most in most detail. But we also have advocacy resources on our website, farmersmarketcoalition.org/advocacy. That includes some templates that can be used. It also includes a video series by one of our board members on how to engage with elected officials if you're feeling unsure. So that's definitely another great way to engage. And we always, of course, encourage folks to join as members. That is not required to join our newsletter. So newsletter is a great way to for folks who are maybe not familiar with us, want to get their toe wet, great way to start.
We call it a gateway drug, the
That's
newsletter.
Right.
That's right.
The gateway drug. Well, and speaking of engagement, just real quick, because this is airing on March 13th, right? It's today. So FMC has an Instagram takeover that they do every year. It's so much fun. And Farmers Market Pros is the takeover for this week. So
this is our week.
This is our week. So we'll be taking over. Justine and I are doing social media, and FMC lets market managers and markets take over their Instagram for a week to kind of showcase those things. It's really fun. It's so great to see what other markets are up to, and it's a great way to kind of connect the community to FMC. So to all of our listeners, definitely follow FMC on Instagram, and this week you can check out our takeover.
Yeah. Cross promotion.
Yeah, we love that program.
Yeah, it's great.
Such a wonderful way to have, markets all over the country showing off the incredible things that they're doing through our channel. And it really, it's such a beautiful partnership and so simple. And we, so thrilled that you all are going to be on this week.
Yeah. At our planning meeting, Zoom, there was some market managers on there, and I was saying who we are. And, we also run some big markets here in San Diego. And a couple of folks that were on there were like, oh, our market's really teeny, so it's not this huge. We don't have a huge following. And we had a really good conversation about how, that's great. That's what FMC is all about, from smaller markets that are just real local and just getting started or have been around for a long time, but just serve a community and what they need. And they're smaller up to we're the largest market in San Diego County. So it's everyone is a part of this kind of group. And that's the whole point of FMC, is that you can really pull everybody together and get that great sense of community. So we can do some good work together because we're all doing the same job, no matter how big your market is. We're all doing the same stuff. So it's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for the kind words about FMC. We really love working with you all as well. It's a perfect partnership.
Thanks for being with us today, Ben.
Thanks, Ben. We'll talk to you soon.
Pleasure.
All right.
Take care.
All right. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening today. And big thanks to our sponsor, the USDA, for the work they do to support farmers and farmers markets. Find out more about market-related USDA programs by clicking their logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Farmers markets are all about connection, and all of us, operators, farmers, and vendors, keep learning. Connect with people just like you from various parts of the country and share what's happening in your area in the terrific conversations over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. If you're actively involved in a farmers market, please find us there, answer the 3 qualifying questions, and join the group. You can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros or email us at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. If you're looking for further education, check out our online course offerings at farmersmarketpros.com. Thanks for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you access your podcasts, and tell us and others how you're enjoying Tent Talk. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is proudly produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni-Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thank you so much for listening today, and we'll have another great episode next week, so tune in.